President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
Very good, girl. Very good.
Wait a minute.
While all appeared calm on the outside, inside the Democrats were exploding.
Well, all new this morning, the Philly DNC chairman is torching the Harris campaign.
Good morning, guys. The Democratic blame game and infighting here in Pennsylvania is heating up. We spoke to Philadelphia's Democratic Party chair Bob Brady, who blames the Harris campaign.
The national campaign, nothing, zero. They had no respect. They had no coordination. They didn't talk. I never even had a conversation with the lady. They didn't even do the right thing as far as giving us the resources that we need, and they want to blame us. And now I understand somebody ever came was blaming Joe Biden. Can you imagine blaming Joe Biden for her loss? She lost. He didn't lose.
Based on your experience in Philadelphia, do you think that it is indicative of how this campaign was run nationwide?
It kind of seems that way, don't it? I mentioned our collar counties. They didn't give them any respect. They were screaming and hollering for signs. They didn't get them to the last minute.
Indicative of the low quality of the Kamala campaign organization, even though the election was over and it was completely irrelevant, the campaign fired back.
While the Harris campaign lashing out, releasing a photo of Brady standing next to Harris and Tim Walz. And then they said in part, quote, the Pennsylvania for Harris team knocked more than 2 million doors in the weekend leading up to Election Day, which is 2 million more doors than Bob Brady's organization can claim to have knocked during his entire tenure as party chairman. Brady says the Harris campaign gave them about half the resources that they need and relied way too heavily on outsiders.
These people coming from other parts of the country, they don't relate. They got a clipboard, they're knocking on the door, drop a literature and take off. They don't say, how's mom, how's your dad, how's your kids doing, how's your son? You know, that's the more important. It's the human touch when you have your committee people doing that in the neighborhoods where they live in.
Like a black hole collapsing on itself. And then the ultimate explosion occurs. The Democrat Party coming apart, blaming each other for everything. Nobody willing to take the blame. With no leadership, they have nowhere to go.
Very much. Brian, earlier you mentioned Bernie Sanders. He took to X yesterday to essentially blow up the Democratic Party. And he said, among other things, it should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party, by the way, he is not a Democrat, he's an independent, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class has abandoned them. First, it was the white working class. Now it's the Latino and black workers as well. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they are right.
And these aren't just a couple of isolated instances. Democrats are firing at each other all over the place and saying all kinds of different reasons why Kamala lost. But the fact of the matter is she lost from the very beginning. There was only one way she could have possibly saved the campaign and given Trump a run for his money. I'll address that at 8:44 if you want to fast forward to that. It's the one and only way she had any chance of winning the election. I'm going to take a moment now to ask you to hit the like button if you're enjoying this. And even if you're not enjoying it, hit the like button anyways. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you want to subscribe and hit notifications and share this with somebody else or some other people. Thanks. Now, here's Joe Manchin, and I'll follow that up with some other quick examples.
Donald Trump didn't win just with the MAGA. He won with the centrist, the common sense, the independents in the middle.
I thought that January 6th and the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Trump's manifestly authoritarian tendencies as evidenced by the people who were closest with him in the White House, I thought it would be enough and I was absolutely dead wrong. So a couple of problems specifically with Kamala's campaign. I think there was way too much spending time with Liz Cheney, spending time with Mark Cuban. Just talking about fascism, talking about how bad Donald Trump is clearly not enough to get the job done. And so we have the results that we have.
Of a lot of finger pointing right now in the Democratic Party. Some who are saying, look, had President Biden not announced, to try to get reelected.
I'm going to speak some hard truths to my friends in the Democratic Party. This is not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Kamala Harris's fault. It's not Barack Obama's fault. It is the fault of the Democratic Party in not knowing how to communicate effectively to voters. We don't know how to speak to voters.
This is unreal. These people they're out of touch with reality. You see, you notice that she's blaming the communication process rather than we need to change. We need to become more of a party of the people and not the elitists.
Fellow Democrats are already starting to play the blame game.
As a campaign co-chair is coming out to say, to blame voters for not appreciating what the president and the vice president were doing to address the economy.
Frankly, a lot of folks not recognizing the real progress that was made by President Biden.
Okay, so now this guy's blaming us. It's the people's fault. We're too stupid.
It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state.
Let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country.
The country we have lives in two totally separated information ecosystems. Whatever happens, we'll have to really understand the information consumption that young men have and why they think that the economy will be better under Donald Trump when it never was.
And that's what makes the timing, I think, of President Biden's decision to step down after the debate something that, if she does in fact lose, will be under a microscope. I think it's one of the big questions moving forward.
If she were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas.
But what I heard there was the media telling American voters, you are wrong. If you voted for Trump, you're wrong. You are not capable of thinking for yourself.
I'm speechless. I mean, Emily, if it had been a tall white man, I mean, you want to know who plays the race card? Come on.
The cultural resentment I heard was from everyone that we just heard in that montage. That is exactly what the American people rejected.
As a woman of color.
Man, I am so burnt out on this race card and the racism of them on the left, and they accuse us of racism.
I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country.
Yeah, and it's completely irrelevant that she's incompetent and he's a woman beater.
And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Look at Sunny Hostile's face. She isn't displaying anger, as everybody else is saying. She is showing complete indignation and contempt for us. We just don't understand it. They, the elitists, know what's good for us, and we are just the ignorant, uneducated masses of garbage.
That a lot of Democrats missed the moment. They were looking at the micro and not the macro.
Do you think the Republicans missed the moment? What about a postmortem on the Republican Party, which is the Trump Party right now?
They just swept, though. I mean, I've been talking about what I'd like to see from the Republican Party.
They won, but they're morally bankrupt.
But America just gave.
Now watch Sunny. She completely disrespects the woman on the right, Alyssa, the one in lavender. As soon as Alyssa starts talking, she looks down and won't look at her in the face.
So let me just make my book issues matter more than if a woman in Alabama is able to get an abortion.
But they're going to do worse under a Trump administration. The only people that are going to do well are the millionaires and the billionaires.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
Misogyny
We need to
and
take some
sexism.
lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not. Nobody who is struggling to make ends meet at the table, like how am I going to pay this bill, cares what Wharton professors say about the economy.
That's because they were bombarded with misinformation and disinformation.
Let me
As I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye. So, as you know, Kamala Harris did not win the election.
When I was in California, I supported the ban on fracking because that's what the people of California wanted. And I represented the people of California. But on a national level, as your president, I would have to represent the entire country. And if the entire country is in favor of fracking and oil drilling to bring gas prices down, then that's what I will support. I will support what they elected me to do. Now, as far as immigration goes, the border has been a mess for quite a while. And quite frankly, we did fail on it considerably. So that policy, those policies are going to change. I will implement stricter border policies because that, again, is what the people want. So that is what I will do as their representative, as the president of the United States. When you get something wrong, you have to admit it. If you don't, you'll just continue to get it wrong. So we were wrong on some issues, we were right on other issues, and some haven't come to fruit yet, such as the economy. Now, what we will do is we're going to make a shift in the economy because we will put inflation as our number one priority. Now, I disagreed with Joe on a lot of things, but out of respect of the office and out of respect of Joe, I didn't publicly attack him or oppose him. But now, at this point in time, I need to make my position clear. So thanks for watching, and please hit the like button and share this with somebody. And let me know what you think in the comment section about the political analyst and Sunny Hostile Houston.